Good evening, friends. As promised, this is a game between two top line grandmasters. One is Judith Polgar, who's white, and the second, who's black, is Vishy Anand. Now, Vishy, unfortunately, here is at the receiving end of some brilliant play from Judith. And this is a game which I thought would be very, very educative and instructive to not only people between the 1500 and 2000 ELO, but even slightly above that. So it's always a pleasure to see the two top line people playing their best chess and trying to get utmost out of a position. But Judith here simply was streets ahead. This game is a 1999 game played in Dos Hermanas at Spain. And here we go. E4, Judith plays, Anand responds C5, then knight F3, D6, D4, CD4, ND4, and F6, knight C3, A6, bishop E3. So we are entering the Najdorf standard moves. And now here Judith improvises and plays G4, slightly different from what normally is played in the Najdorf. But this is also played, and this is a very, very aggressive line used by white. And let's see how Anand responds. Anand plays typically the E5, which is a standard line, and then knight F5 by Judith here. And this is a slightly wild move, but I guess Judith was in a different mood altogether. Anand plays G6 to kick off the knight from there. So what is at play here? Obviously, knight at 6, bishop into h6, bishop into h6 stops black from castling, but loses the g4 pawn. So Judith plays g5, which is slightly wild. It involves a piece sacrifice. This is all theory, but this is slightly wild position to play at the very top level. And nevertheless, Anand takes up the challenge and plays g into f5. Judith plays e into f5, and Anand realizes that if bishop into f5 will result in d5 square being weak. So Anand does not play bishop into f5, and instead ends up playing d5, which is the correct move to play. Inviting Judith to say that, okay, take my knight and then I'll play d4, pinning your both the pieces again, rather forking them. Anand moves away Judith plays queen f3. Sorry about that. Where did that go? Okay, here. Queen f3, d4, rook, triple zero, knight bd7. Pretty standard stuff. So this is the best play by Anand possible under the circumstances, but Judith simply excels in her play in this particular game. She plays bishop d2, inviting another piece sacrifice. Now Anand realizes that it's no point just being greedy by playing ng8, and ng8, queen b6, all of that has been played. So in this position, Anand plays bishop g7, which is fairly standard thing, saying that okay, you take this, then I take this, or even with obviously with this, you might just play with queen into f6, removing the queen from the pin. Rook g1, that's what Judith plays, saying that okay, if you castle here, you're going to still have problems. Knight g8 is curtains for black, especially when f6 is coming and everything is hemmed in and crushed. So Anand takes up the challenge and says, okay, I need to castle any which ways, and he castles here. Judith takes the piece back. At least one piece is back now. Anand is a piece up. Queen into f6, as I had said, getting out of the pin. Queen e3, king h8. Obviously, Judith takes the king out of the pin. f4, which is a very, very brilliant move by Judith, saying that okay, I'm just going to attack the e5 pawn and attack the center, because that's the best way to win, especially when you have these two pieces here who are still watching this spectacle. Queen b6, saying that okay, inviting Judith to exchange the queens, but well, Judith being Judith, she's not going to do that. Another interesting thing would be queen into queen, knight into queen, pawn into bishop, provided this pawn was not en prise. because then the bishop would take this pawn. If it was covered or protected, then I think this would be somewhat interesting to play. But since it's not, since the f5 pawn is not, so Judith plays queen g3, Anand plays queen h6, rook d6, inviting the decoy. That's not going to happen. f6, Anand is consolidating the position, but Judith comes out with move after move, trying to completely smash Anand's position, and that is exactly what she does. Again, at the threat is f into e5. So Anand plays e4, which is the correct move to play. Bishop c4, b5, bishop e6, rook a7, rook c6, a5, bishop e3, rook b7, bishop d5, rook b8, rook c7, b4, b3. Now with b3, what Judith does is she stops the entire attack. Now look at all the pieces of black. It's interesting to pause here for a moment and see that did Judith see all of this earlier when she played this line? Probably not. But it's move after move that she tries to capitalize on the sacrifices, gains a piece back, still being a piece down, manages to strangle completely black's position, and strangle black's position completely, and still ensures that her position is at the same time intact. Although strangling, sometimes it so happens that when you try to strangle the opponent's position, you end up leaving a weak square here or there. But look at this position. Judith does not take a single chance, allowing no amount of counterplay at all. b3 is a fantastic move, knowing fully well that these squares are of no use, and these squares cannot be exploited by black because black's bishop is completely paralyzed, and so is the queen. Rook b5, bishop c6, rook f5, rook into f5. Now look, this is a moment to pause, and can you find out probably the winning line? Well, I hope you've been able to find out, so you're not far from Judith if you've been able to find out. So it's pretty straightforward. Rook into c8, rook into c8, bishop into d7. Now Judith, obviously Anand does not play this rook here, rook f to c5, because otherwise bishop into rook, rook takes bishop, pawn push, and this would still be real curtains, it's over. So, because otherwise the queen is en prise or its mate. So Anand plays rook c to c5, bishop into f5, rook into f5, rook d1. Now Judith tries to get this rook into play and completely finish black's position. Look at this very interesting position. It's 5 pawns apiece, 3 pieces, queen, rook, and bishop, but slight initiative with white, and Anand realizes that his game is almost over, and he plays king g8, and Judith plays queen g2, and that's where Anand calls it quits. He knows that it's queen g6 at best, queen into e4, this rook moves anywhere, then f5, and then rook d8. It's all over. The reason why he needs to play f5, Judith needs to play f5, is stop this pawn from coming up, and at the same time put this pawn here, queen here, and then wherever the queen moves, eventually then start playing down the rook and finishing the game. So this is here where Anand resigns the game, and I hope this was very interesting. You see, what the thing that needs to be learnt from this kind of a position is that when you sacrifice 2 pieces, you better make sure that you gain 1 piece back at least. And at the same time, after gaining 1 piece back, you ensure that you still have something to capitalize on. There is compensation enough for you to play. It may not necessarily to win, but enough compensation for you to continue the game. Otherwise, it's pointless. It all looks very beautiful and spectacular that you sacrifice 2 pieces, got 1 piece back, and then suddenly you realize, oh my God, I'm losing. So there's no fun in that at all. So the things that you learn here from this game is that Judith tries to say to Anand that, look, I've sacrificed 2 pieces, I'm going to take my 1 piece back, and even after that, I've got active counterplay enough to defeat you and play some real candidate moves. And at the same time, the 000 move here is one of the best that I have seen in many games. So the thing to realize in chess is that very often we also try to do something spectacular, and which is not wrong. That's the way you enjoy the game, you love the game, you learn from the game, you unlearn, you relearn a lot of things. But at the same time, especially when you're playing at people who are comparatively superior or your peers, you need to account for most of the things that at least you have some decent counterplay left with. Because if you have none, then you're going to get up from your chair in the next 10 moves. So it's no point trying to give spectacular, wild, beautiful, brilliant sacrifices which no longer end up being brilliant, but they are only optically beautiful. So I hope you've learned something from this game. and we continue to enjoy the videos, and at least I enjoy making them, and I hope you enjoy watching them as well, because this is the best way to use up your lockdown. Utilize your brain, keep your brain occupied. I continue to repeat this because that's the best way to utilize the free time that you have at this time, because come within 2 weeks, I think your schools will reopen, and you'll have online classes to begin with. So then you would not be having so much time, and getting adjusted to a new online classes for at least a month or two before you actually physically go to school will be something which which is a challenging task as well for both yourself and your parents, because they have to get used to your being at home and studying, or getting that continuous noise from the other end of the classroom. So I wouldn't say it noise, but I would say it that some voices where parents are usually used to quiet, especially quiet atmospheres from morning till afternoon. So if you have any questions about this game, do let me know. There are several things I repeat. What are the things that you take away from this? What you take away from this is that if you sacrifice two pieces, you better try to gain one back. Even if you can't gain one back, then try to mate the person. If you can't mate the person, try to get one piece back, and then ensure that you have enough compensation to continue the game. Once you have enough compensation to continue the game, you think hard, and you think, and ensure that you whip out candidate moves to ensure that the opponent does not have even the most simple breathing chance, which here Anand found out that he did not have a breathing chance. Usually Najdorf with the G4 variation throws up these kind of spectacular positions and moves even at the topmost level, particularly, in fact, I should say, at the topmost level. And we all learn from something, and we will all learn from these kind of things. And the most important thing for you to learn from this is that it is not a particular opening that throws up these kind of things. It is your ability to spot the board, to look far ahead, and to ensure that you come out with very, very interesting chess moves. This can happen in any opening, even if it's the dullest of opening. People can have pawns sitting across each other, and then you come out with something which, one way or the other, you break open the pawn structure and try to come out with something brilliant where you take up the initiative. So chess positions are not necessarily opening oriented. For any coach to tell you that this opening will lead to this, or this opening will lead to that, would be a little bit of a fallacy and an error, in my opinion, because we are not computers who are playing with each other. We are human beings who always end up leaving one square here or the other. It's only for the other side to find out which square is left open and how to exploit that square. So this is one perfect example, and I hope you learn this. Once again, I repeat, openings cannot lead you to certain positions. They may initially, but you may have to then try to alter the face of this position, alter the position in a way that suits you, where you tweak the position, as I would say, to your advantage, and try to gain as much initiative, space advantage as much as possible, so as to activate your pieces and come down telling on the opponent. I hope you enjoyed that, and if I find another game of this nature, I will definitely come out with another video. Have good fun and enjoy.